Hello, everybody. My name is Dan, and you are listening to another episode of A Happy Moment. I have a very special guest today. My very first guest on the show, back from episode 1. It's Tina the Librarian. Welcome, Tina.
Hi, everybody.
Glad to have you back. And today we have a very special review for you. We have a review of Halloween Ends. I'm going to give you a spoiler warning right now because we're going to talk about spoilers. Tina, what did you think of Halloween Ends?
It wasn't as scary or jump scary as the other Halloweens, mainly because Michael Myers isn't prominent, but the evil that is associated with him is.
Reviews I've seen haven't been very good for it. I haven't read them in detail, though, because I didn't want to spoil the movie for myself, so I'm not sure what all the gripes were. But I was not really surprised that things played out the way they did, because we know from past movies in the franchise that there is definitely a supernatural aspect to Michael Myers, so it's no surprise that he was able to
Infect
infect is a good word for it, infect Corey and spread his evil, so to speak. So I was not really surprised by that, and I think it was a different take, different from the usual Michael stalks the Strodes throughout the movie and slowly slices people to ribbons and butchers people. So this was a little bit of a refreshing take. Would you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think they went this route just to give it that fresh take, as you said. And because if they kept going with Michael Myers stalking people, stabbing people, and all that jazz, there's not really an ending to that. So I feel like they, instead of focusing on Michael Myers, they focused on the evil aspect of him. Instead of the man, it was the evil that was infecting the community. So it is an interesting take. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting more of Laurie Strode running around and having people die around her and being stalked by Michael Myers, but it was more of he's infecting the community. So they made it a community thing. He's infecting the community. He's causing all these weird things to happen, these evil things to happen, and then it kind of comes to the head when he affects Corey, who was pretty much shunned and kind of had a bad break, but he embraced that evil. Though at the end he tried to stop Michael Myers from grabbing the knife, so I think hopefully that was meant to be a redeeming for him.
Interesting take. I like it. I do have a trivia question for you.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, but the mask that Michael Myers wears was created from the mask of a celebrity. It was altered slightly, of course. But do you know which celebrity's mask was the mold for Michael Myers?
Was it a wrestler?
It was not a wrestler. Any guesses?
Nope.
William Shatner.
Really?
Yes. Can you see the resemblance?
No, not really.
Like I said, they made a couple alterations to it, but the prototype was a William Shatner mask. So I thought that was interesting. One thing that stood out to me in this movie that was different from the previous movie, Halloween Kills, I think it was overall a lot less gory. Sure, it had its moments. There were some very cool scenes in this one, such as the guy getting the well-deserved blowtorch to the face, and the radio jockey getting his tongue cut off. Those are interesting. But
I didn't like the beginning of it.
With the kid?
Yeah.
It was a little jarring. Definitely not something you expected, but it kind of sets the table for the rest of the movie, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Are you glad that it wasn't as gory as Halloween Kills?
I mean,
Or are you indifferent?
I'm not into that sort of thing, but I watch it with you.
And I appreciate that you do.
The one thing I did notice about this movie, it felt a little rushed. Like there were some plots that could have taken different turns that weren't really resolved. Like when Allison gets really angry at the hospital because of the Dr. Douche in the bimbo. It kind of seemed like Michael Myers' evil was starting to affect her, if that's what they're going for, but then that doesn't really play out. So there are some little plot holes. It felt like they were like, hey, we probably should just end this. So let's hurry it up.
I don't know if it was really left unresolved. I thought there wasn't really a chance for Allison to resolve it because the doctor gets killed, of course, and so does the nurse. So I think that kind of wrapped it up, so to speak.
But not really her starting to feel this anger. Because it seems like there was foreshadowing when she's like, I want to burn this place down and stuff like that. So.
That's true. That's a good point. I would agree with that. Speaking of foreshadowing, early in the movie we get a glimpse at the junkyard where Corey works, and there is some kind of
grinder.
Yeah, a metal grinder, I suppose. And this was shown a couple times early on, and I said that has to be foreshadowing. I know at some point someone is going to get thrown in there, and it took longer than I expected it to, but lo and behold, it finally did happen at the very end of the movie when Michael is deposited into the grinder. What did you think of that scene?
It was gory. I don't know. It might leave some room for, hey, here's Halloween 2.0. Oh my gosh, Michael Myers is back. How did that happen? And it kind of seemed like they might be going that way when he's, losing all this blood and he's still able to start choking her, which is not physically possible, but it's Michael Myers.
As I said earlier, we know that he has a supernatural element to him. Just take the Halloween Kills, for example. He's quite badly beaten towards the end of that by the group of angry villagers, yet somehow he get back into it and slaughter all of them. And of course, over the movies in the franchise, there's countless examples of him cheating deaths. As cut up as he was, I'm not surprised that he was able to start choking Laurie. But overall, I'd say that I'm pleased with how things turned out. Is it my favorite movie in the franchise? No, but by no means is it a bad movie. I liked it. Did you like it?
It was alright. I'm not a big fan of horror, so it's alright. It definitely took on a different vibe, I think, from the previous movies in the franchise, and that might be why some of the reviews are a little upset. And you don't really see Michael Myers old too often. It's just a lot of foreshadowing, and I definitely saw the Corey character falling into the Michael Myers evil trap, but
yeah,
it was different.
Yeah, it was. And despite his supernatural powers, that we finally start to see Michael becoming a little vulnerable, maybe. Maybe all the abuse he's taken over 40 years has finally caught up with him a little bit. He's definitely not as strong as he used to be. Proof of that was Corey wrestled the mask away from him. I don't think that ever would have happened in any of the other movies. But at some point, all the abuse has to start catching up with a person. whether they have powers or not.
Especially when they're getting a little bit on the old side.
Yeah, gotta be pushing 60 years old maybe. I forget how old he was when all this started. I think he was 8 years old. And Lori, I can't remember, but she's a few years younger than him at least. But yeah, he's definitely getting up there in age, so it's got to wear on you eventually at some point. Like I said, I think this was it was an enjoyable movie. It had its fun moments with some of the kills. I'm glad the bratty kids got what they deserved.
Aww.
You wanted them to survive?
I wanted them to learn their lessons and become upstanding citizens and realize being bullies is not fun, nor is it kind.
I might agree with you for 3 of the kids, but the leader was definitely a jerk and he had it coming.
What was your favorite part of the movie?
I enjoyed when the bully leader got what he had coming to him. I was waiting for that the whole movie. And from the very first scene that he's in, he needs to go. So I was pretty pleased when that happened to him. I enjoyed the ending. I'm glad that things played out the way they did. I was happy to see that Lori survived. And we have as somewhat closure on the franchise, at least for now. Although it's probably safe to say that this will be the last one that Jamie Lee Curtis is in. But yeah, it was good. Did you have a favorite moment?
Michael Myers' reaction when Corey takes his mask, where he just kind of pops up, gives you the feel like, well, that just pissed me off.
Yeah. Like I mentioned prior to that, he seemed kind of a weaker version of himself almost, but once that happened, I think we got more of the classic Michael Myers.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about the townspeople with the procession to the junkyard?
I thought it was a fitting end, as I know that they would definitely want to all be there to bear witness to make sure Michael was finally disposed of once and for all. It's not the first time in the franchise where they've all gathered around to witness his demise, but this time, like I said, I think we finally got closure on this one. What did you think of it?
I didn't really care for the part where the townsfolk were crowding around the car and grabbing Michael Myers. I figured that should be the job of Lori and Allison and some of the other victims instead of just random people. I thought they could have just added a little bit more of a, how would you say it, a little bit more of a, oh, that's that dude helping move Michael Myers, more of a familiarity, like maybe the one victim who was in the wheelchair, like popping up to help lift Michael Myers and not just some random people.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Have some of the recurring characters be the ones that deliver him to the grinder.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been more impactful.
Yeah.
So are we in agreement that it was a decent movie?
That's okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We both enjoyed it, and I think if you haven't watched it yet, we've obviously spoiled it for you, but I gave you warning at the beginning. But if you haven't checked it out yet, I think you should. It's definitely worth watching. And
Just don't get too disappointed. It's a different vibe, but I think they created this vibe pretty well for an ending to the franchise.
yes, I agree with that. I think that about wraps it up for our review of Halloween Ends. Tina, thank you very much for joining me. It was glad talking to you again.
Yep, no problem. Anytime.
And thank all of you for joining us today. If you have any comments or questions, or if you just want to chat, you can find me on Twitter at Happy Moment Pod. Until next time, see you later.